grief and trauma certainly go hand in hand, and I think as human beings we realize that any part of the news that we pick up on the radio or that we read or comes through social media will impact us in different ways depending on where we are in our own lives, what we've experienced, our own trauma that we're bringing to the table. My advice is that people take it slow and tap into the news that's coming out of Texas slowly and carefully. They have the power to do that. So being able to turn off the television, not be scrolling all night, I think is important for you to, or for people in general, to remain strong over the long haul, because that emotional energy that you may be expending and reading these things or keeping up with the news, you're likely going to need to support others, including your own family. Yeah, so as far as age, I think 4 and 5, certainly, depending on the child's individual understanding in the world and how they engage, is a place to start. Coming from parents is best, and to provide them with enough information that they know that they feel safe. Schools are overall a safe place to be. When we have these very sad black swan events, it makes it difficult for us as parents to believe that to be true. I think giving them general information based on the developmental level would be most appropriate. My go-to resource for this is the National Child Traumatic Stress Network. They're phenomenal in the information that they provide, and particularly provide for parents. And so if anyone's listening to this message, the NCTSN, National Child Traumatic Stress Network, does its best work in responding to these types of events. And they provide tip sheets for parents to kind of go through, to look at before they sit down with their kids and talk about these very sad events. Yeah, so the same advice would be for older students and kids to make sure that they're really off social media, that you get an understanding from them and an agreement that you have to get offline, and that maybe the information that comes into the household is shared in the same space and time. So kids want to know, they want to know what's going on, but I think maybe setting it down and watching a bit of the news together or reading something together would be helpful. As kids get older, they realize that the world isn't completely Disney. It's not rainbows and unicorns, and that bad things do happen to very good people. I think it's hardest to make sense, as all of us as parents, to completely understand the insanity of events like this, and that's hardest to contemplate. So people, will certainly lean heavily on their religion, their spirituality, their family, and I think just talking about the reality and the fears and acknowledging them is important. As parents, we are models to our children, and so to share your own fears, I think, is important. That our kids understand that we're human as well, and that we have fears. But we also have to get out in the world and navigate, and life keeps on going no matter how horrible things may seem. So sitting down with older kids, again, having honest conversations, sharing your own thoughts and feelings, and managing the media, I think, are the main points for parents of older children. Yeah, so what to look for? I always recommend you look for changes in your child's behavior, so parents know best, and be in tune with that, and not let things go. So biologicals come first. Sleep hygiene in typical times is difficult to manage. So getting kids to give up their cell phones, highly recommended. That may be very difficult, but I'm telling you, to have your 14-year-old scrolling through the news all night long is not healthy. So look at sleep hygiene, look at nutrition, eating too much or too little. So we all have ways of coping. Sometimes it's with food. So sleep, nutrition, and then connections. So kids who are retreating into their shell. And we know that adolescents, certainly teenagers, can be kind of in their cave at times, but look for their social connections. Are they seeing their kids, their friends less contact, and promoting face-to-face contact as COVID kind of releases its hold on us, knock on wood. There is an opportunity for kids to become more connected with friends. I want to also point out that as school is ending now, people's schedules change. So you have to be aware that a child's connectivity with friends is immediately and sometimes severed, that they don't see their friends every day. So you may have to make up for that. You may have to go the extra mile to make sure that your children are getting together socially with their friends. Yeah, so sadly, that's a new reality since Sandy Hook. So those recommendations to school districts came out after that event. I think it's important to be vigilant. I say that to all my patients. I say that to the communities that I help respond to in these disasters. But vigilance is two things. One, it's an intelligence that comes with being careful, and there's less emotion in it. So not being scared, but being vigilant. So school drills are likely going to be a reality for most students from here into the future, in that school districts, teachers, even parents have the responsibility of preparing their kids for that practice. So days ahead, weeks ahead, and then to also consider individual experience. And that's very difficult. A lot of teachers don't realize what kids have gone through. So the previous grief and trauma. When I help communities respond to these types of events, whether man-made or natural, people don't realize that before all this, there was grief, there was trauma. People come to these events with things. So back to your question, I think they're sadly necessary, but I think with preparation that kids can come to a point of being vigilant, but not triggered or traumatized through these drills. There's something called, we use this in our zero suicide initiatives and it's an adaptation of a model called the Swiss cheese. It's from a gentleman by the name of James Reasons, around accidents in the workplace. So think of Swiss cheese lined up, and it could be 50, it could be 100. And if you look at these holes, there's the opportunity for people to pass through these holes and not get caught or checked or helped. I like to look at whether you're talking about suicide prevention or events like this, that there were multiple failures along the way in this individual's life that could have made a difference. And it's not to blame just one person or even a group of people. But if you look at, say, in this case, I think 18 years of life, where were the failures? If we looked at all these slices of Swiss cheese, where were not things picked up on or checked so I think it helps us turn or pivot to the responsibility that we all have in stepping up or saying something. Having concerns about your own child, your nephew, your neighbor's son, we have to be a slice of that cheese, honestly. And I think it's everybody's responsibility to support mental health. And I think we are coming to terms with that now. And maybe that's something, a silver lining out of COVID, is that we have to be able to check in with each other and to speak up, whether someone is, if you think that someone's thinking about taking their own life or somebody else's life, you have the same responsibility to say something. Yeah, I would look at previous hard conversations that you've had with your children. And so that could be the death of a pet, or maybe a relative, maybe that's a grandparent, some type of loss before, and to be able to gauge how you handled that conversation. I prefer, and I think I would recommend, that parents come forward first with their kids rather than waiting for school, because then you have the most control over it, and you also know what your child has seen and how they understand the world. So I would recommend that parents take the lead, and you have to think of long term as well. You know, you are, as I said, a mirror to your children. This is not going to be the first difficult conversation you ever have with them, and so it sets up a very positive relationship for you and your children, thinking long term about having difficult conversations. If the message is, you know, I'll talk to you when you hear it from somewhere else, you know, how does that relate, you know, when they get older, when things happen at school or with their friends? I would think that parents want to be the first in and to take responsibility for their child's mental health, their overall development, and know that they're going to be parents for the rest of their life, and same with the kids. So look at it as an opportunity, a true opportunity, to have some difficult conversations, and know that more will come as they get older, and that you can't guarantee that everything's going to be okay, but you can guarantee that you'll be with them side by side to get through it. When the conversation turns to mental health, that there's empathy and compassion for everybody involved. But I think we need to keep as a centerpiece the idea that we are all responsible for everybody's mental health. That setting aside, you know, politics and trends and all of this, in the end, we are responsible for each other. And so much division has happened by way of COVID-19 and our electronic devices, that we have to get back to being human with each other. And so maybe the call here is to, if people want to do something, is to be more human and be connected. And if you see something, you have a gut feeling about someone and are genuinely concerned, say something. And you will likely, in the end, you know, be able to save someone's life. Maybe not in the immediate moment, but maybe that's 3 months or 6 months down the road, because you had that conversation with someone. So speak up, take responsibility for others' mental health. I think that would be what I would do. If you want to keep your own little corner of the world safe and clean, and feel that you want to do something, you have that control. You have the opportunity to be empathetic, human, and caring, and to show that to the world by asking questions. Are you feeling as though you could kill yourself? Are you having thoughts of hurting other people? Difficult questions, yes, but important. I recommend that people don't accept the answer of okay or I'm fine. Is to get a little bit deeper. No, you know, initially people aren't going to come, you know, out with everything, but to be consistent and keep asking the question. But we're so busy, right? We claim, you know, to have something to get to all the time. But if someone's standing in your doorway and lingering, could be a coworker, could be a neighbor, you have a sense, if you're in tune, that they're needing more than, and to really ask if they're okay, and not accept, oh, I'm fine, I'm okay. Because that helps you. Okay, yeah, I'll just move on with my day. But really, how are you? How are you doing? How are you sleeping? You know, what's going on in your life? and be genuine and set aside the time. 60 seconds of asking someone those questions and being there for them could literally save their life. You may never know what the wake that you leave, but giving an extra 60 seconds to someone is huge. And maybe that's that conversation that you have over dinner tonight and over adult beverages, is that give someone 60 extra seconds today. Wouldn't that be a great thing?